Okay, hello everyone. It's 7 o'clock. I'm Stuart Fishman. This is the Web Yeshiva. And tonight is the first of two discussions about the subject of fasting on Shabbat. Last week we spoke about Shabbat and Yom Tov and how they differ. And we saw that based on the Poskim that Yom Tov has a mitzvah of Simcha, which is objective, so to speak. Happy, obviously, is a state of mind, but there are certain behaviors which contradict happiness. And one example of that is mourning. And that's why we don't sit Shiva. There's no mourning on a Yom Tov, because mourning is the opposite of happiness. And it's a mitzvah of the Samachta B'chagecha, which, and we spoke about this last week, is actually could be a very challenging mitzvah. My wife has a very good friend whose father passed away on Chol Moed, and they had the funeral on Chol Moed, but they didn't start sitting Shiva until after the Yom Tov was over. I believe it was Pesach. And that was very hard. My wife says it was Sukkot. Sukkot. Very hard, very challenging. And it's a demand that the halacha makes on us that we have to allow our emotions to be governed by what the Torah demands of us. And the Torah says, "V'samachta b'chagecha." We have to be happy. Shabbat is no mitzvah per se to be happy. On the other hand, and this is the key thing, on Shabbat, there's a mitzvah of Ōneg, pleasure, delight. V'kvatel Shabbat Ōneg, Kadosh Hashem Mechubad, and you will declare Shabbat to be a day of Ōneg, pleasure, delight, a day that is treated respectfully. And there are halachot about this, and the Navi himself says, "What's kibato? Me'asot rachach mitzochav tzechem v'daber davar." And you will show respect to Shabbat from pursuing your occupations on Shabbat, from pursuing your worldly objectives on Shabbat, and even your speech on Shabbat. It should be different. So today we're going to talk about fasting on Shabbat. I don't want a person can fast either because they're simply not hungry, or they don't enjoy eating, or what's more perhaps interesting is that they feel that that's their way of relating to the spirituality of Shabbat. Shabbat is Hashem's day. Hashem sanctified Shabbat, and they don't think that eating is a means of expressing holiness. They just don't. And one of this idea is actually expressed in the Yerushalmi, which we'll see, and the Talmud Bavli that we will see. And we'll start with a commentary written to the Rambam. The Rambam obviously was a Sephardi. He was born in Morocco, went to Spain, traveled to Egypt. He's a Sephardi. Ashkenazim obviously learned the Rambam. They had tremendous respect for the Rambam. And what the Rambam says about fasting, what we say about fasting, there was another school of thought, apparently, among the Jews in Germany, especially among a body of scholars known as the Hasidei Ashkenaz. And the Rambam says, "Ein goes in Tanot Tzipor lo b'shat Yom Tov." No fasts, no fasts on Shabbat and Yom Tov. We don't declare fasts. If there's a crisis, no fasting. All right, and it's really that's the only time we fast is this year. Yom Kippur is on Shabbat, actually. The only fast that's Docha Shabbat is Yom Kippur. Now we'll see in these Ashkenazi Rishonim what they said about fasting on Shabbat. Okay. Now, we're going to talk about this next. There's something called Tanit Chalom. Person has a bad dream, and this dream really bothers them. They think it's not just a dream that, like they're worried about getting their tax return on time. They dream that they're being audited by the IRS or whatever. They really feel that this dream is like a message from Hashem. And this dream bothers them so much. What does the Gemara say? Just fast. Tanit Chalom. We'll talk about that next week. Okay? But that's one example of a fast as a parent might be sanctioned in the Gemara by the Gemara. But Ubaba Yamafil b'Shabbat. The Mordechai was one of the Ashkenazi Rishonim. He was killed during one of the crusades. I don't know the numbers of the crusades, or I think the third crusade. He was killed on Kiddush Hashem. His name was Mordechai ben Hillel, and he wrote a sort of anthology in the back of the Gemara of Ashkenazi Psak. And about Tanit Chalom, he says, Bab Yom Fil b'Shabbat. If a person has a terrible, terrible, terrible dream Friday night, he wakes up Shabbat morning, he's just overcome with anxiety. You can fast on Shabbat. And there's that word Oneg. This person is totally just out of his mind with anxiety because of the dream. He won't enjoy eating. On the other hand, he's looking, what do I do? Hashem sent me a message. His oneg will be in fasting. And that's why Tanit Chalom is permitted. And again, I said, this is really a subject I just want to talk about only next week. But this is one of the fasts, the only fast. It's not even in the Gemara. It's the interpretation of Tosfot quoting Rabbeinu Hananel. And the Gemara Brachot, also the Gemara is about dreams, which really just, you can write a book about this. But here's a Gemara. Scroll down. Okay. I just got my pointer ready. I'm Rabbi Elazar, Mishum Rabbi Yossi ben Zimra. Kol Yosef b'Tainis b'Shabbos kohen lo gzardino shel shivim shana. Whoever fasts on Shabbat, a decree of 70 years, that's whatever that expression means. We'll talk more about this next week, even if the decree is for 70 years, you fast on Shabbat, you've done away with this decree, which sounds like a good thing. There was a decree against you, fast on Shabbat, no more decree. So what are you going to do? You'll be punished because you didn't have Oneg Shabbos. Oneg Shabbat does not mean fasting, right? That's not a delight. The fast is not a delight. We'll see other people who did find it a delight. But no, it's not a delight. You have a mitzvah, it's in Yeshaya Navi says, Kata Shabbat Oneg. And he fasted. Okay, now you're going to pay for that. What is this? Is this acceptable or not acceptable? Like, and you got rid of one decree, now you have a new decree to deal with. How do you fix this? Fast another fast. In other words, and we'll say usually the most usually means you mean fast. You'll have to fast 2 days in a row. Friday night you had the terrible dream. You fasted on Shabbos. Okay. However that works, it works. The decree is nullified, and then you have another Avera to answer for. That's you Mavata Oneg Shabbos. You have to fast again. Now, there's nothing here about dreams. The idea of dreams, like we'll talk this next week, Nether, is brought down by Tosfot. Okay, what's this decree? It's because he had a bad dream. How do you even know there is a decree against you? Because you had this dream, and this dream made a huge impression on you that there's some sort of Khalila decree against you in Shemayim. I take the Gemara up. Gemara says you should fast. That gets rid of the decree. How do you know there's a decree? Because you had a dream. Tanit Chalom. Okay, Nisa b'Medrash Tehillim. It's a fast day, and you'll say the fast day prayers. You'll say Aneinu L'Kayin Tzor. And you can maybe perhaps even make your own bracha out of this, because normally we say Neinu and Shemaya Tefillah, but we don't say Shemona Esrei on Shabbos. So when you're going to say a Neinu, you say an El Kain Tzur. Okay, so this Tosfot, and the Mordechai is like the summary of all the Pesach in Tosfot. He's the last of the Ashkenazi Rishonim. Okay, this time is Chom. You can fast on Shabbos. Okay, and then you have to do a makeup fast to get a kapara for not eating on Shabbos. Rabbeinu Meir says, one dream isn't so serious. If you have 3 dreams in a row, that justifies fasting on Shabbat. Okay? There was a woman who had a very bad dream. She fasted on Shabbos. She went to Rabbeinu Shmuel of Novberg, maybe it's Nuremberg, and he said, okay, if you can't fast on Sunday, don't fast on Sunday. 2 days in a row might be hard. Now, in general, we're going to see in Yerushalmi in a minute. Really, there's no fasting on Shabbos. You shouldn't even postpone lunch. By the 6th hour of the day, you should have your Shabbat day meal. Okay? Now, because of Rav Yah was in the early Ashkenazi Rishonim. I'm saying these are all Ashkenazi ideas. We're going to see this Gemara in a minute. Oneg is eating. Let's say a person just loves learning Torah. I love learning Torah. Learning Torah for me is my oneg. Rav Yah says, if you want to learn all day on Shabbos and skip all your Shabbos meals, then that's your oneg. Fine. And we'll see Rabbi Eliezer in a minute. Because Rabbi Eliezer says, and he's speaking about Shabbos also, and Yontiv, either the day is devoted to Hashem, or the day is devoted to you. And they're both legitimate. I can learn Torah all day, fine. I want to eat and skip my learning. That's also okay, according to Rabbi Eliezer. And he quotes the story of Mar Bereid Ravina, which we'll see in a minute. Mar Bereid Ravina, the son of Ravina, who sort of edited the Talmud Bavli with Rav Ashi, he fasted all year long. I guess he ate supper at night, but during the day he fasted, except for Shavuot and Purim and Erev Yom Kippur. So that's the Rav Yah's opinion. You can learn all day on Shabbos. That's your oneg. That's oneg. Again, oneg we saw last week is very subjective. You want to learn all day, learn all day. B'shuva easy perk sheni the beitza the sveli can be Yeshua ken pasik Rav Yah. But then the Rav Yah changed his mind. He didn't like this binary, all for Hashem or all for just enjoyment. That's the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. The Rav Yah later changed his mind, said we should hold like Rabbi Yehoshua. Both. You can do both. And you must do both. There's no all-day learning. There's no all-day eating. This is like the Ashkenazi early Psak. We'll see another Ashkenazi Psak. It's back to the Rambam. Okay. Mishizana b'chol yom. The Hasidei Ashkenaz, you can find them on Wikipedia. There's a very interesting group. I don't know if there's anything in English about them, but you look on Wikipedia, just type in for Wikipedia, Hasidei Ashkenaz. They were a sort of spiritual movement in the 12th century and early 13th century in Germany. And they wrote many very, very interesting books. And they were very interesting people. And they were ascetics, apparently. And that's Hagos Maimonios, who's at the end of Ashkenazi Jewry, before the Black Death, and all the Jews just packed out and moved east to Poland because there were just 20 massacres. So this is the Hagos Maminios, like the Morcha is summing things up. He fasts every day. Someone fasts every day. So if you're fasting every day, I guess you're only eating like it says in Pirkei Avos, like Mayim b'shura tishtav lechem pat b'melech tochal. All you eat is a slice of bread and a cup of water at night. To eat a big meal on Shabbos will just make you sick. You're not going to enjoy it. It's tsar. You can do that. Kama chasidim when she meiser she's not b'Shabbos mitamzeh. I know, man, there's that word chasidim. It doesn't mean chasidim like we have these days. They're working on with pious. They were the pious people. They had their own like spiritual movement. We have seen many pious people of great deeds. Anshe Maaseh. Okay, pious people of great deeds. Sheisana b'Shabbos mitam zeh. They were fasting on Shabbos, not because they didn't say, of course there's an oneg, but because their ascetic lifestyle of constant fasting just meant if they would suddenly eat, they'd get sick. So they fasted on Shabbat. And I've heard that Rabbi Yehuda Chassid was one of the founders of this school of Hasidei Ashkenaz. He would fast on Shabbat. He was fasting all week long. He would fast on Shabbat because he just couldn't eat. He physically couldn't eat. Also, and he's now, they're not the only people who are fasting. And we see this in the Gemara. So now we'll see the Gemara in Pesachim and we'll see the Yerushalmi, which will just open up this whole notion of like, why do you do? Like, is there something praiseworthy or merit in all these in fasting, even on Shabbat? I think I'll start with the Yerushalmi because it's shorter. There are a few statements in the Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi in Masechet Tani, we saw it already quoted in the Mordechai. Rabbi Yachar, Rabbi Yavav B'Shem, Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina. Also sounds like Sheish Shos B'Shabbos. If you're going to go to shul in the morning, you have to eat by 12, the 6th hour of the day. And look in the Poskim, like we'll see in the Bach, they didn't like Chazanim who spent too much time singing. Because the Chazan spent so much time singing, davening ends after 12. And you can't fast past 12 on Shabbos. So the daven in a hurry. Rosh Hashanah you can, not on Shabbos. Okay, that's the first statement. That's Masechet Tani. Tani Rabbi Chagai b'Shem Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachman. Lo nidnu Shabbos Yom Tov achil l'shtia. Shabbos and Yom Tov is for eating and drinking. It's for eating and drinking. Okay, that's what it's for. That's Rabbi Chagai b'Shem Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachman. Then you have Rabbi Brachya. Rabbi Brachya b'Shem Rabbi Chia Bar Abba. He says, no, Shabbos and Yom Tov is just for learning Torah. And Masis was like, Bein L'Dain. And the Gemara says in the Yerushalmi, I can find a support for both opinions. On the one hand, it says, what should you be doing on Shabbos and Yom Tov? Oh, Yoshev Ochel. Oh, Yoshev Osek B'Divrei Torah. Or you're eating, or you're learning. And apparently that's like very binary, all day as opposed to all day. And then you have the other opinion, which we'll see in the Bavli. Shabbat is for Hashem. It means it's for Hashem, you should be learning all day. Because on the other hand, it's Atzeret for Hashem. You can do both. Part of the day for Hashem, part of the day is for you. And in the Bavli, this is related as a machloket of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yehoshua. So this is the Gemara in Pesachim. Okay. Tanya Rabbi Eliezer Omer. Yantiv, either you're learning or you're eating. Oh, it's either this or it's that. Rishon says, no, you can split the day. You can eat part of the day and drink, and you can learn part of the day. Split the day. Spend half the day in the Beis Medrash, half the day at home. Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan, who's the first generation of Amorim, says, they both are looking at the same psukim. One pasuk says, Atzeres is for Hashem. It's a yantiv for Hashem in one pasuk. The other pasuk says it's a yantiv for you. Okay? There's a sover, oh kula Hashem, oh kula lachem. This says, or this, or it's that. They're both legitimate, but you gotta go 100%. 100% this way or 100% that way. Just about, hey, Yeshua said, split it. Chetzil Hashem, chetzil lachem. Okay. And the Gemara goes on to get into details relevant for today. I'm Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar, who's the Amora, who's a student of Rabbi Yochanan, said, everyone agrees that Yontiv, you have to have a meal for yourselves. Right, Tama? Yom Sheninabu Torahu. Because that's the day we got the Torah. We should be celebrating the Torah. We should learn Torah. We should also celebrate the Torah. Amar Rabba. Akol modim b'Shabbos dav'ina nami lachem. Everyone agrees on Shabbos is also lachem. Even Rabbi Eliezer, who says you should be learning, he agrees that there's also an aspect of lachem. And how does he know this? In the pasuk in Yeshayahu, the Krasa Shabbos Oneg. Shabbos is a day of delight. Fasting is not a delight. All right? Fasting is not a delight. You have to have nice meals on Shabbat. Rav Yosef from the Nami Lachem. Rav Yosef agrees on Purim, you have to have Lachem. Simcha. It's a day of joy and feasting. And then we get to Ma Berei Ravina. Ma Berei Ravina Koloshat Hava Yasef Katanisa. All year long, Ma Berei Ravina fasted. Lava Miatsarta Upuria Omala Yamadi Kupuri, except for Shavuot and Purim and Erev Yom Kippur. So those are the opinions that are out there. I can either say Shabbat, like the Rav Yah originally held, and like Rabbi Eliezer held. Shabbat can be a day that's purely spiritual. It could be. We can hold like Rabbi Eliezer. Of course, Rabbi says, even Rabbi Eliezer would agree that Shabbat needs to have some sort of lachem because of the pasuk in Yeshayahu of Karas Shabbos Oneg. You have to eat. Okay, Hakol Modim. He says Hakol Modim. Karas Shabbos Oneg. So you have both opinions, and it would seem that, like the Hasidei Ashkenaz, at least at the outset, were willing to accept that a person can actually learn all day on Shabbat. And that's what we saw in the Mordechai. The original opinion of Rav Yah, of a tefillah, of a Talmud, Shari Lasok, we hold like Rabbi Eliezer. And okay, so those are the two big opinions, two ways of looking at Shabbat. Any questions, ideas?
They mean either or either one, each period of time, you do one or the other.
Rabbi Eliezer means all of one or all of the other. Because Rabbi Yeshua is the one who disagrees, says you can split the day. Rabbi Eliezer does not believe that you can split the day.
Oh, that's interesting.
He's binary, 100% this or 100% that. And Masechet Beitzah, their commentaries, they try and figure how Could this really be so? And apparently,
Yeah,
yes,
how
it
can
could be
you,
so. It could be
how can
so.
you say that?
It could be so. According to Rabbi Eliezer, that could be so.
Like how is that? How is that? Because people
How
need
is
to
what?
eat and to learn.
What?
I mean, how is that possible? I mean,
How is what possible?
that you say that you know, let's say you learn all day and you don't eat, or you.
That's it. I mean, that's what. I mean, it's for very exceptional people. The Hasidei Ashkenaz were not a mass movement. We see that he quotes that Rabbi Yehuda Chassid used to fast on Shabbat because he was fasting all week. And he's fasting all week was that's just their idea of how we ought to be living our lives. And they were an exceptional group, and they disappeared. They disappeared. I guess, and all the Jews left Germany because during the persecution of the Black Death, the Jews, there was just a mass movement to the east. And people, you can look at their academics who try and look for traces of Hasidei Ashkenaz thought in other areas. But that was exceptional people, and Rabbi Eliezer is talking about exceptional people. Okay, so that's Rabbi Eliezer. And Rabbi Yoshua. So you go on, like what's the halacha? The Meiri is puzzled by this. So we can look at the Meiri. If you look at the way the Meiri is writing a commentary to the Gemara, and he wants to look at what's the conclusion of this Gemara. Well, what should we be doing? I have Rabbi Eliezer, who's one opinion, or this or that. Rabbi Yeshua says split the day. There's a general rule in the halacha of Rabbi Yeshua against Rabbi Eliezer. We hold like Rabbi Yeshua, because Rabbi Eliezer was from the school of Beit Shammai, and the halacha is not like Beit Shammai. So I could say, okay, so we'll split the day. But the story Gemara ends with the story about Marbury Ravina. I mean, I look at the end of the story. He fasted every day, including Shabbos. So can I fast on Shabbos? Do I hold like Rabbi Eliezer? And I won't hold like Rabbah. Rabbah says everybody agrees it's lachem. You have to have a meal on Shabbat because of Oneg Shabbat. But then what about, why have a story now about Marbury Ravina? Is he contradicting this, all the other ideas? So the Meiri tries to work out what's going on in this Gemara. Okay. So if there's Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua, and as a rule, we do hold like Rabbi Yoshua, but then he asks, in Cain, Marbury de Ravina, Shemalav Besugya, who kol hashata v'yatav patanito. But then I look at the Gemara. Marbury de Ravina is fasting every day. Rami Atzati Puri Bali Yomi de Kippuri. In B'Shabbat Hayab my son of Rabbi Eliezer he. And he doesn't hold like, means he doesn't hold like Rabbi Eliezer. Maybe it's only on Yontiv, because Eliezer certainly says his opinion by Yontiv, but he goes on. But it seems if he was fasting every day, that was his habit. Means he said, I fast every day. If that's what Marbury Ravina did, the halacha is not like, cannot be like Marbury Ravina because we don't fast on Shabbat. And some people say, you know what, maybe Rabbi Eliezer, I can foot Marbury Ravina like Rabbi Eliezer, but the Meiri says that doesn't really fit in the way that the Gemara is going. So how's Marbury Ravina fasting? If I can make a shvua, I'm going to fast 100 consecutive days. Okay? Or I can make a neder. Food is forbidden to me, or however I want to structure, because he had to eat sometime, X number of days. But then once you make a shvua, then that shvua is valid, and it will include all the Shabbatot that are included in the oath. And this Marbe Ravina is not brought to show, oh, he holds like Rabbi Eliezer, oh, he does not hold like Rabbi Yoshua. We're talking about fasting, so we talk about Marbe Ravina, and he also fasted. He fasted a lot every day, but he was fasting based on a shvua that he made, and that's nothing to do with the normative halacha. And the Miri also goes on. The only fast that's permitted on Shabbat is what we'll talk about next week. The details, Tanit Chalom, the fast because of a bad dream. And then it's not really, as the Mordechai said, it's not really contradicting the idea of Oneg. Because if you're so bothered by the dream that it's scaring you out of your wits, then your Oneg will not be food, because you're just all agitated. You want to do something that's going to, as the Gemara says, nullify the decree, and that means fasting. And so that is not a contradiction to Krata B'Shabbat Oneg, meaning food, because in your particular case, food is not an Oneg. Miri also holds of Tanit Chalom. Okay. So the halacha that we have is Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch was written by Rav Yosef Karo in the 16th century. And the division of halachot in Shulchan Aruch is based on the earlier division that's called the Tur. The Tur was written by the son of the Rosh Rabbeinu Asher, lived in the 13th century. He lived at the same time as Hagot Maimoniot, as the Mordechai, but he ran away from Germany with his teacher, Marami Rottenburg, who was famously kidnapped and held hostage in a dungeon by an evil baron. And he refused to allow himself to be ransomed. He also told his students, don't even ransom my body, because we have to stop this kidnapping business. And he died in the dungeon. Eventually, someone did ransom his body a very, very long time later. And the Rosh, who was one of his great students, he ran away to Spain. And his son is Rabbeinu Yaakov, and as opposed to the Rambam, who divides all of the Torah into 14 volumes of Mishnah Torah, the Tur, Rabbeinu Yaakov, the son of the Rosh, he took all of the halachot that are relevant in our time, and he divided it into 4 categories. Orach Chaim's everyday halacha was Shabbat and Yom Tov, Yeridea, which is kashrus, avelus, tarat mishpacha, or everything else that's relevant every day. Even Ezer's marriage and divorce, and Choshen Mishpat is commercial law. He starts Hilchot Shabbat with the idea of Oneg Shabbat. Kasina Parakama the Shabbat, Kol Kitri Amar B'Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Yossi, Kol Ma'aneg as a Shabbos done on Dacham B'Mitzarim. Whoever shows the light on Shabbat will inherit a limitless inheritance. Okay? But Nachman Yitzchak Rav Nidil Mishivu Galas, you won't be oppressed by the Goyim. Whoever enjoys Shabbat gets everything that he wants. Because hopefully everything that you want will be more spiritual. If you do Avodah Zarah, Hashem will forgive you as long as you honor Shabbat. Okay, that's how he opens Hilchot Shabbat. The Rambam opens up Hilchot Shabbat with the Hilchot of Pikuach Nefesh. He felt that that's the most important thing. Yes, Shabbat is important. Pikuach Nefesh is more important. The Torah opens it up with the Hilchot of Oneg Shabbat. Why? So the Bach, or the important commentary to the Torah, he has an interesting idea. Why are we opening up with Oneg Shabbat? Near it, Lafi the Shabbat Ika Bet Mitzvah. In Shabbat, there are 2 mitzvot. Mitzvah Tesed Kadeshet Shabbat, which Katuv, Tzorad Yom Kadsho. There's a mitzvah to make Kiddush. Tzorad Yom Kadsho. Zachrei Hayayin. Chol Zel Ango. And part of sanctifying Shabbat, it means enjoying Shabbat. Moshe Katuv Yeshaya Kratal Shabbat Oneg. That's the first mitzvah. Bet Shlasa B'Malacha. The second thing about Shabbat is the things that you can't do. Can't do work. But this is a very difficult mitzvah. You're telling us we have to spend money, extra money in our Shabbat meals, which costs money, and you're also telling me I can't go to work to make back the money that I'm spending on the meals. So the Shabbat costs me money at either end. I'm not making any money. I'm spending extra money. That's why the Torah opens up his Hilchot Shabbat with these statements from the Gemara. The person shall have great reward if he honors Shabbat. We spend money, yes, you spend extra money. You'll go and buy herring. You'll go buy whatever it is that you like. Extra salads. Okay? And if you're careful not to do any malacha on Shabbat. And he goes on to make a point that we see in the Rav Yah. Okay, there's a scholarly elite referred to by the Rav Yah. People want to learn all day on Shabbat. You know what? We're happier if we're just learning Torah all day long on Shabbat. We're not going to have any special meals. We're not going to be looking for physical pleasure on Shabbat. We want spiritual pleasure on Shabbat. That we get from learning Torah. We'll have two benefits. First of all, we have limited funds. We're not going to spend our money on buying food for extra special food for Shabbat. And we're going to learn more Torah on Shabbat. Isn't that better? Okay. So he holds that the Torah holds, like the simple plain meaning of the Gemara. We saw Rabbah said, even if Rabbi Eliezer holds that on Chagim, it's O Kulul Hashem, O Kulul Lachem. Rabbah says, everybody, even if Eliezer agrees, Shabbat you can't fast. Because it's Kratal Shabbat Oneg. It's a pasuk in Sefer Yeshayahu. There's no fasting on Shabbat. You might think that it's better. You might think it's more spiritual, like Rabbi Brachi b'Shem Rabbi Chia in the Yerushalmi. You might think, no, it's about spiritual. Food. What's food? What, you need herring? You better have learning Torah. No, we don't hold like that. The Torah says we don't hold like that. Shabbat is this and that. And he goes on. There's a There's a rules in halacha. We don't hold like Rabbi Eliezer because he's shamuti. He holds like Beit Shammai. Okay? And we always hold like Rabbi Yoshua against him. Hainu bestam. I might say that's a rule in general. Okay? But I'm going to learn the Gemara this way. I think halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer. On Shabbat, it doesn't say, Bach reads this like he's with great subtlety. When it comes to the Chagim, Rabbi Yeshua says, Chalkehu, split the day in half. Okay? You split the day in half. Chalkehu, right? Chetzio lachila, chetzio beis hamedrash, half and half. Rabbah doesn't say split Shabbat, he just says nami. Also, there's also some lachem on Shabbat, but not 50% of the day lachem. Also, toss in some lachem. In other words, Shabbat should be more spiritual than Yom Tov. Yom Tov is a mitzvah of samachta, lachem. Here, there's no lachem in Sefer Yeshayahu, right? You go back to Sefer Yeshayahu, it doesn't say lachem. Karat Shabbat Oneg. There should be delight on Shabbat. That doesn't mean it's 100% delight. Rabbi says there should be some delight. Nami. Okay? Nami. Should also be some delight on Shabbat. And what does the Bach deal with this? Okay? Doesn't say Chalkehu. Pshita l'gar Shem Yom Tov, and so Kamkin Chalkov, Kulo Lashem, Fekasi L'man Yanuach. The Bach says, forget about Oneh. That's in the Navi. I look at the Torah. L'man Yanuach Shrochav Chamocha. Shabbat, the Torah says, is a day of rest. You're not resting if you're fasting. I mean, you get fidgety. I mean, I get fidgety on fast days. Get fidgety. It's not a day of, it's not menucha. Okay? I feel Rabbi Elazar. So Rabbi says everyone agrees that there should be some lachem at Shabbat. Means he's more like addressed to Rabbi Eliezer. So then the Bach quotes the Rav Yah, which we saw in the Mordechai, and in the Hagos Maimonios, that the Rav Yah, who's an early Ashkenazi authority, said, originally the Rav Yah holds you can fast on Shabbos if you're learning and davening all day long. And that's like all for Hashem, but the Rav Yah changed his mind, as he's quoted. And then also the Rav Yah said, we know about Rabbeinu Yehuda Chassid, that if you're fasting all day long, every day, because you're learning, okay, if you're learning all day long every day, like Rabbi Yehuda Chassid, if eating a large meal on Shabbat will make you ill, then you don't have to eat. Skip the big meal because it's just going to cause you physical pain. So Bach says like this. What's my conclusion? Hachig naktina. B'yam tov chetil Hashem chetil lachem. I hold like Rabbi Yoshua. Yantiv, really, keep your eye on the clock. Because there's a mitzvah of v'samachta. Make sure you're spending half the day doing things that bring you physical enjoyment. Look at the clock. But Shabbos is not Yantiv. Shabbos is also lachem. So Shabbat should really be mostly engaged in spiritual things and make time for the physical pleasures of Shabbat. It's not like Yantiv, which is 50-50. Whatever you think is your appropriate division, 70-30, 60-40, what works for you? But a little more time on Torah, a little less time eating and drinking. That's the Bach. That's how he sums up the entire Gemara. Any questions? No?
No, right now.
Okay, not right now. All right, there's an interesting, back to the Yerushalmi, we saw these opinions, right? The Yerushalmi just said, or all this, or all that. And so Alei Tamar was Rabbi Yehuda Tamar. He was a great Talmud Chacham. He came there, he was a Polish, came there to say, he wrote an amazing commentary to the Yerushalmi. And he talks about our Yerushalmi too. Okay, our Yerushalmi says that's like one extreme, just eating and drinking. Adavar Tamua. This is like a very startling idea that Shabbat is just for eating and drinking. Is that the extent of the Oneg Shabbat, just to eat and drink without any learning? So what's Shmuel Bar Nachman's saying? And Yishami's short statements. That's why you need these commentaries to explain the statements. When Psikta Rabati, he quotes another medrash that divides up Shabbos like this. Okay? There also, Shabbos Nidal Tanug Torah. The medrash, the Psikta also says, is Shabbos all spiritual or is Shabbat all physical? That medrash says it's like this. Shein kan machlokas. It's not machlokas. There are two types of people. The man demar Shabbat nida tanu midar betamadi chacham shemigim betor kamos shavu. Shabbos saying by tunugim. The one who said, if you say Shabbos is about eating and drinking, you're talking to people who are learning Torah intensively 6 days a week. They need 1 day a week to rest. For them, Shabbat is just a day of rest from learning. They're doing it 6 days a week. 1 day a week, they just rest, take care of, look after themselves. But Shabbat is saying Torah. And the other opinion that Shabbat is all about learning Torah is for people who work 6 days a week at their weekday jobs. 1 day a week they should be learning Torah. And he thinks that's how to look at this idea. It depends who you're talking to. You're talking to the spiritual elite, or you're talking to the rest of humanity. Spiritual elite, Shabbat is pure physical oneg. You need 1 day a week to rest. If you're talking to the other 99.9% of the population, try and focus on learning Torah on Shabbat. And that's it. Sof davar. So why do I say, what's your Oneg Shabbat? Yes, eat. Yes, drink. Daven, go to shul, listen to the Kriyat Torah, learn the Parsha, and learn simple things that, like Agadah and Musar, and avoid things that require like extreme concentration. Okay, and you don't just focus on really difficult, complicated subjects that require a tremendous amount of concentration, because that's hard. And then he quotes 3 other things. There's an idea of neshama yetera on Shabbat. Okay, and it's interesting. In Ebegmar Shlosh Shitov. So in our Gemara, in the Yerushalmi, there are 3 ideas. Opinion number 1, it's just for eating and drinking. Shabbos is only for learning Torah. And Shabbos will Hashem, or split the day. And he has an interesting idea. Nearly Shashol Shita, there is some of the Musakshal Neshama Yetera. The Gemara in Masechet Beitz, it says the idea of Neshama is Tera. It's a Gemara in Masechet Beitz in the 2nd parak. On Shabbat, that's the bracha of Shabbat. There's extra energy or an extra soul. There are 3 ideas, he says, that explains what's Neshama Yetera. Shitra ben Yochanan of Rashi Shebinyan Nefesh Yetera Simcha Tunei Kaguf. The Neshama Yetera is physical. It enables us or a soul to enjoy itself. Okay? That's Neshama Yetera. Zashem ben Yochanan. Neshama Yetera Shin Lo Adam Shak Lechav Lisha V'Smach V'Tanen Kipor B'Shtet Yain. And all week long, you're tired. You don't have like nice meals all week long. You grab something for breakfast, you run to work, you come home, toss something into the microwave, toss something on the oven. You don't really have a nice meal during the week. Shabbat is different. It's a bracha, and it's a bracha we should physically enjoy. That's Rabbeinu Chananel. Lishto, l'chol ishtav v'sumach l'tanik. Shabbat, enjoy yourself. Shabbat is really a day of physical rest. That's the Neshama Yetera. Okay? And that's it. the Zohar, Shita the Zohar, Ameiri, Shita Mekubetzet. Nishmei Torah inyana she'er ruch shalom damasik chochma v'darat Hashem. The Neshama Torah isn't for our bodies. The Neshama Torah is for our souls. On Shabbat, we are able to achieve more greater insights into Torah. Shefa Elokiv Sechet Asuk b'Torah, learn b'Mais Hashem. It enables us to learn Torah better. That's what our Neshama Torah. It's a spiritual thing. We have greater insights. It strengthens the mind. Then comes the Ibn Ezra. That's his third idea. The Ibn Ezra is commentary to the Chumash on Vaychulu. It's both. Ibn Ezra says it's both. Yes, it's a physical neshama Torah that we can enjoy ourselves physically and relax, and also spiritually, that we can learn more Torah with Da'at. And that's it. And he quotes it. It's for the goof, it's for the nefesh. Shabbos is both. I think that's very nice. Mm-hmm. So now we can see, there's any questions? No questions?
No.
No, no.
Okay. So we'll see the Shulchan Aruch now. This is Reish Peichet. The heading, Din Tan v'Din Tan Chamash, is the law of Tanit on Shabbat and Tanit Chalom on Shabbat. Sif Aleph. Honestly, sounds Shabbos had Sheish shows. You can't miss out on eating past the 6th hour of the day. I feel low man we spell Aster. The Ramah, who's the great Ashkenazi Posek, he knows the Rav Yah, he knows Rav Yudah Chassid. We don't hold like that. There's no fasting on Shabbat, even if you're just going to learn and daven all day. No. Shabbat you have to eat. Okay? And he doesn't like the Chazanim. Chazanim who take a lot of time singing, they're doing the wrong thing. Certainly in the winter, days are short. You gotta get home to eat your meal, because you have to also have Sudah Shlishit. The exception is Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, you can daven past Chatzot. Rosh Hashanah is also Yom Hadin, but you also can't fast on Rosh Hashanah. Okay. And Sif Bet. Yesh Amim Sha'ad Mishamazik Lo Achila. That's Oneg Hu Shlolacha Lo Yochal. Like Rabbi Yudah Chassid. If I eat, I don't eat a lot during the week. If I eat on Shabbat, I'll get a stomach ache. My oneg is not to eat. That's how I work. So don't eat. Don't eat. We saw this last week. Let's say you want to cry. You're sad on Shabbat. You can cry. Because again, it's oneg. Oneg is subjective in extreme cases. Otherwise, you really ought to be eating a nice meal on Shabbat. You fast all week, like maybe the chassid, or you're very, very depressed, you don't have to eat, but really don't. And Mishmur makes it something like very medical. But if you really think that food's going to make you sick, then don't eat, because it's also to eat that. You can't even eat the kazayit. I mean, just eat a kazayit of challah to make say a motzi and say birkas hamazon. If you can't even eat that because it's going to make you sick, then don't eat. Don't eat. Okay? Don't eat. Okay. And if you're eating, if you're not eating because it makes you sick, you're not like the Tanit Chalom person. Tanit Chalom person could eat. They don't want to eat. So they have to make a makeup Tanit for the fact that they fasted on Shabbat. If you're not eating because you're sick, then you didn't do any Avera, so you don't have to do a makeup fast. And just to build on what we saw earlier, it's not going to make you sick. it's going to cause you pain. You fast all day. And that's Rabbi Yehuda Chassid. But if it's not causing you pains, physical, it causes you spiritual pain. Spiritually, you hold like the Rav Yah in his first opinion. I really ought to be learning all day. I shouldn't be eating today. You're wrong. You're wrong. Even if you think that's going to help you do tshuva, you're wrong. On Shabbat, you don't fast. You don't fast. Finally, Sif Zayin. So you have to eat. I have to eat before the 6th hour. Let's say I want to eat early in the day. I'm hungry. I'm hungry at 10 o'clock in the morning. I have friends who go to Hashkamamim, which I never understood. They go to Shachris at 6:45. They're home by 9. They're finished eating by 10, and then you go to sleep until 4. That's their Oneg Shabbos. It's fine. You want to eat early? Eat early. But let's say 12, you had a big meal Friday night, and 12 o'clock, you just can't eat anything. You're not hungry. Fine. Wait. Because you're not fasting. Fasting, you're going to schedule your meal for when it's most comfortable. Let's you have a big meal every day. You're like a gourmet. Every day you have a fancy meal. Shabbos like the Malachid. You still have to make Shabbos different. So you eat your meal earlier than your normal gourmet meal. Eat your meal later than your usual gourmet meal. But Shabbos has to be different. So that's it. There are people who fast on Shabbat because they thought it was more appropriate. And that's not the halacha. It's not the halacha. The halacha is we must have the nice meals on Shabbat because it's the oneg. But the Bach says, paying attention to how much time you're spending on your food and try and spend a little bit more time on learning than eating. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rabbi Fishman.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank
We'll see you
you.
next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Wednesday.
תודה רבה. Thank you.